All right, so welcome to Friday Night Live with John and Patty. Trusty sidekick here.
She always says something before I can say it now, so.
Now I'm talkative. I don't know what it was.
And my producer Patty, sidekick producer. So glad everybody could be on board. Hope everybody's enjoying the springtime and getting the most out of our good weather. So just take care of yourselves and make sure that you do the things that you've been taught when it comes to everything. And tonight we're going to talk about hormones. And hormones are probably the most important thing in our body. Why? Because it governs everything. Okay. Hormones are the centerpiece. They play a role in so many things: our energy, our libido, our eating habits, everything in our life is governed by hormones. They deal with stress, on and on and on. I could just go on forever what they do in the body.
I'm gonna run downstairs and get on my machine quick.
Okay. All right. So we want to talk about hormones, and sometimes it gets a little bit deep, and I'm going to try to keep it as general as I can. So we'll go gently.
It's really close to me.
Okay. So what are hormones? So hormones are glands. They're nothing but glands, but they consist of things like the pineal gland. And the pineal gland is a little gland in the brain that governs, we call it the third eye. And a lot of times when people have trouble sleeping, it's because of the pineal gland. And the pineal gland, if there's light in your room, or you summertime when it gets light early, a lot of times people will wake up with the light because the light disturbs the pineal gland if it's out of commission. It involves the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland is another gland in the brain, and it regulates growth. And it produces and sends out a hormone called thyroid, TSH. A lot of you that had testing done, you've been tested for TSH. And the TSH cell, it's called thyroid stimulating hormone, tells the thyroid gland how much hormone to produce and secrete. All right. The levels in your blood are always rising and falling depending on your body's needs. So as we go through the day, as we go through the weeks and the months and the years, everything goes up and down all the time. Everything's trying to be regulated. When our body becomes out of balance, then what happens is the regulation gets thrown off, and we'll get into much more of that as we go on. All right. And it also produces prolactin, and that controls breast milk production. So when women have a child, it's all about the pituitary gland, about producing the milk. Now, if a woman is overly stressed, going through life change, depression, what happens is milk can actually cease to produce. Now, the next one is ACTH, which is, and it's a long word, adrenoccorticotropic hormone, okay? And this one tells the adrenal glands to make hormones. So every time I do a cytoscan, I always tell people that everything works together. So already you can see the pineal, the pituitary glands, they're dependent on each other. If one isn't functioning, then you're going to have a breakdown in the hormones. The next one is the thymus. And the thymus is a gland that governs white blood cells. And it also produces a hormone called thymosin, which helps to make and develop T cells, which T cells fight antigens, which is unfriendly bacteria, and they're actually a part of the immune system. Now, always remember that we have to have unfriendly bacteria in our body to live. You cannot be 100% void of unfriendly bacteria. A lot of times it doesn't make sense simply because you think, you don't want something unfriendly, you don't want something that's negative to the body, but we have to have that, but it has to be a balance. You always want your good higher than the bad. When the hormones get thrown off, the bad become higher than the good. And that's when we start getting in trouble. The next one is the thyroid itself, okay? And your thyroid gland produces, it's right in the lower part of the neck. And this is the main source of hormone production. And the thyroid gland produces what is called thyroxine, or better known as T4 and T3. And that is the thing that they always test when they're checking for hormone dysfunction. And the T cells actually also fight antigens, again, bad bacteria, and are actually part of the immune system. So your hormone system and your immune system run hand in hand. You cannot have a strong immune system and a weak hormone system. Okay, you cannot have a strong hormone system with a weak immune system. So you have to, and that's why we always preach the immune system, the immune system. And when we get sick, what happens is the immune system breaks down, and therefore we end up with all kinds of problems, okay? The thyroid gland also produces hormones that regulate the body's metabolic rate. So when people have trouble losing weight, what happens is because the metabolism is very low. And even sometimes people will say, I exercise and I do this and that. But if your thyroid is off, then it's still doesn't produce enough energy in order to produce the proper levels of T3 and T4 cells. All right. It also plays a role in controlling the heart, muscles, and digestive functions. So as you can see, hormones are affecting everything. Sometimes people have digestive issues. It can turn around and be from the hormones. If people have hormone issues, it can be because of digestion. So a lot of times when we go to medical doctors, we don't know, they say, well, your hormones are off. And the question is why? Unfortunately, they want to medicate us and right away and say, well, we need to medicate you and try to raise your thyroid levels or lower your thyroid levels. It also controls brain development and bone maintenance. Okay. It's correcting function depends on a good supply of iodine from the diet. Now, a lot of people, when I say iodine, they'll say, I need to get iodine, just put iodine in my body. That's not the way you work it. It's got to come from food. It's got to be broke down through food in order for the thyroid to be able to absorb it or proper supplementation. I've had people tell me that they're going to go and buy iodine and just take iodine. Cells producing thyroid hormones are very specialized in extracting and absorbing iodine from the blood and incorporating into the thyroid hormones. So you have to have iodine in your blood system in order for it to transfer into the thyroid. Now, there's other hormone producing cells that the thyroid gland called, and they're called C cells. And these cells produce calcitonin. And calcitonin plays a role in regulating calcium and phosphate levels in the blood. So what happens is sometimes people will say, well, I was told that I have excess calcium, too much calcium. And that could be caused by one of two things. Number one, you're taking the wrong calcium. You're taking a press tab or a powder that's got other things in it, or your C cells are not producing properly, so the body doesn't know what to do with the calcium, so it stores it in the other parts of the body. And normally, especially for women, but men too, you will get calcium calcification. And a lot of times that ends up in the breast and it can create a lump. And unfortunately, doctors will tell people, especially elderly people, you have too much calcium. But at the same time, they have bone issues. Well, if you have bone issues and you can't have so much bone issue, well, let me put it this way. If you have bone issues, you have to have calcium. You have to have calcium, okay? So sometimes I had a woman in Florida call me and say, I'm not going to order any more calcium because my doctor says I have too much now. And that's because her thyroid is not producing properly. The next one is the adrenal glands. And the adrenal glands, there's two of them. They sit right on top of the kidneys. And they produce a lot of different hormones, including cortisol, aldosterone, and adrenaline. And the adrenaline hormone helps to regulate different bodily functions, including metabolism, blood pressure, and your body's response to stress. So again, when people are always overstressed, they're stressed about everything, they can't get away from it, then what happens is it's because the adrenal glands are overtasked. And when that happens, people will go into what we call adrenal fatigue, because the adrenals are constantly worked because of the stress. They're constantly under pressure. And therefore, what happens is that we become tired, middle of the afternoon, we become really fatigued and lethargic and just can't really function. I had a lady come in yesterday for consultation. It was about 5 o'clock, and she said, I could put my head down on your desk and just take a nap every afternoon. You know, that's how exhausted I'm in the middle of the afternoon. And that's because her adrenal glands are weakened. And then what happens is, under stressful condition, cortisol provides the body with glucose. So now we're talking sugar, okay, which affects the pancreas. And so it taps into the protein stores, and then it also gets into the liver, all right? And then what happens is, if everything is working right, the energy can help a individual with what we call fight or flight, which is a stressor. People under stress all the time are what we call fight or flight. And their adrenals are overworked. They have too much cortisol. And what happens is, when that happens, people start gaining weight, and they can't control the weight, especially in the abdomen. And then what happens is, elevated cortisol over a long period of time consistently produces glucose, leading to increased blood sugar levels. So a lot of times when people go into type 2 diabetes, it's because of the adrenals being overly stressed. And then we move into the pancreas. The pancreas is part of the hormone system, and the pancreas produces digestive juices and insulin. Again, now we're talking again about sugar, okay? That has all to do with digestion, okay? So now we get into the glands that influence the production of estrogen, progesterone, and androgen. are the ovaries, adrenals, pituitary, and hypothalamus. So all of those glands help to produce balance your hormones to keep you from getting hot flashes, night sweats, etc. For men, we have testes, okay? They synthesize two important products: testosterone, needed for the development and maintenance of a lot of our physiological functions. Sperm counts are needed for male fertility. A lot of times when couple can't become pregnant, then what happens is they it's because of the male and the hormones are off, therefore he's not producing the proper sperm levels, and he can't the female can't get pregnant. For women, it's the ovaries. The ovaries are a small oval shaped gland located on either side of the uterus. And what they do is they store and produce eggs, also called the ovum. And they make hormones that control the menstrual cycle and pregnancy. Now, when women have a lot of issues with menstruation, it's because of hormones, okay? During ovulation, one of the ovaries will release an egg. And then if a sperm fertilizes the egg, then the female can become pregnant. The ovaries continue to release an egg each menstrual cycle until you reach menopause. So even though you're in your 40s, 50s, and you're menstruating, it is still releasing eggs. And once in a while, it'll release more than one egg. And if that's the case, and it matches with the proper sperm levels, that's when you get twins, triplets, etc. All right. So when you're born, you have to understand, when you're born, a female's born, you are born with all the eggs that you will ever have in your lifetime. At the time of birth, you have all the eggs you're ever going to have. And the ovaries secrete estrogen and progesterone, which obviously play an important role in reproduction, development, and menstruation. Estrogen production is highest in the first half of your menstrual cycle before ovulation, and progesterone rises during the second half of your cycle to prepare your uterus for a fertilized egg if conception occurs. All right. So those are the organs.
That's a lot.
Those are the organs, but those are almost the great percentage of the organs in your body. If you think about it, about the only organs we didn't talk about was the kidneys. If you really want to, main organs was the kidneys. So that's why the hormone system is so important. Okay. Okay. So then we get into what is known as perimenopause and menopause. Okay. Now, these functions are a natural hormone, hormone transition. Okay. And it happens during the period of our human life, much like puberty, etc. And they should be experienced as a natural stage of life and not treated like a disease. And what I mean by that is a lot of people, women and men, but women, when it comes to menopause, will say it's supposed to be painful. It is not. It is not the female curse. Okay, it's because the hormone system is out of balance and it's just not functioning the way it's supposed to function. So we have to understand that there is a cycle in life. So menopause, as you see the screen, in the early part of our life, for women, we'll look at women, okay? At age 25, you can see where the lines are. And then as it moves, as you get close to 35, that's your highest peak. And then after you reach about 40, it starts to decline. Obviously, when you get to 80, it's virtually gone, your estrogen levels. How important are estrogen levels? Okay, well, estrogen levels create and produce the proper levels of hormones that balance everything. So you have estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. Now, when you have estrogen, if estrogen is too high, if it's too high, it creates a problem, which estrogen can be a precursor to cancer, breast cancer, uterine cancer for women. For men, it can create prostate cancer. Okay, so that's why it's so important to balance those. And your progesterone is the balancer. Now, if women have too much testosterone, what happens is then women will start to grow beards. They'll get excess hair on arms and legs. They'll maybe their voice gets deeper as the course of life. And of course, none of the women that I know want that. All right. So we want to reduce the amount of estrogen to keep it safe, but not reduce it to the point where then the testosterone takes over. So do women have to have testosterone? Yes, you have to have testosterone, because if you didn't, your estrogen levels would be way too high. If you did not have testosterone, then you would never have a libido. Your sex drive would be zero all the time, because testosterone is the hormone that gives us a libido, a sex drive, etc. All right. So when you look at men, on the other hand, at age 25, testosterone levels are the highest. So you can see where women at age 25, it's not the highest. It's the highest at 35. So a lot of times in marriages, sometimes the female will have a much higher libido than the male will at 35. All right. So it's kind of different. The male, younger, has a higher rate of testosterone, and women have a lower percent. But you'll notice that men, as at the age of 25, as you move into 35, it starts to decrease all the way down to 60. And the problem is when we have a testosterone decline for men, they lose their libido. And that's where we get into things like ED and those kind of things, because the prostate, different things aren't working the way it's supposed to be. Okay, so perimenopause is just a transition when hormone levels decrease. Menopause, menopause itself is a permanent release of menstruation, and 1 year without a cycle is considered menopause. And postmenopause symptoms, the symptoms of, if you have hot flashes or night sweats, they'll slowly decline gradually. Now, there are women who go into menopause way too early. And we've had situations where we put people on programs and we get calls from women in their late 60s and 70s and panicking because they got a period. I'll never forget a lady calling, and I think she was talking to Patty. Maybe I can't remember who she talked to, but she was mortified. She was 71 or 72, and she was in the middle of our program and she got a period, and she told her husband to go to the store and get pads for her. And her husband was like, "What are you talking about?" Right? So I thought that was pretty funny. But it was one time and the body cleansed itself out and then it was done. Okay. So I think, and if you have questions, please call or say something. All right. Slide 4. Okay. Okay. So how do you know if you have a hormone imbalance? Well, there's a self-test, and we do self-testing all the time. Every time people come in for consultations, we do a self-test. I ask the questions, they tell me yes or no. And that's how we determine where we're at. But sometimes, as I mentioned earlier, it's not just the hormones, it's other things within the body, whether it be the liver, whether it be digestive system, whether it be all those other things we talked about can be causing. And that's the problem when we try to just take care of hormones, all right? But sometimes when people come in and they are having problems, they've already been through programs and all of a sudden don't feel well, I'll do a checklist. And anybody who ever wants to do one and find out, all you have to do is come in, call, whatever it might be. So what's here? Okay, so there's different types of thyroid issues, okay? The first one and most common is called hypothyroidism. Now, hypothyroidism is basically your metabolism is slowed down, very slow. It's not functioning, okay? It creates a feeling of fatigue. You can feel cold a lot. Dry skin, hair loss is a big one. Slow heart rate, irritability, excess trouble concentrating because of the pineal gland and the pituitary gland and all that type of thing. Okay, which creates estrogen deficiency, and that creates hot flashes, missed periods, fatigue, insomnia, vaginal dryness, mood swings, irritability, acne, sleep deprivation, bone loss, depression, weight gain, bloating, night sweats, painful intercourse, and bladder infections. Other than that, it's all good. Okay. If you have estrogen excess, too much, you'll have low blood sugar, which can lead to a diabetic. Salt and fluid retention, hands and feet will go swollen a lot. Foggy thought process, migraines, heavy blood flow during menstruation, feeling puffy and bloated. You know, even though you're eating well, you just feel that bloated feeling. We have rapid weight gain, depression, anxiety, and insomnia. That's estrogen excess, and that's why we self-test, and we ask all those questions front and back. What's going on? And for men, it's a much simpler questionnaire. That's all there is for men, because men are simple and women are more complex. So this takes a lot more to figure it out. If you're progesterone deficiency, that means you're going to have irregular menstrual cycles, infertility, mood swings, which can include anxiety and depression. It can include headaches, migraines, irritability, weight gain again, increased abdominal fat. So when we get, men or women, get that bulge in the middle, okay, that can be a sign of progesterone deficiency. Decreased bone density, painful breast, endometriosis, tumors, PMS symptoms, osteoporosis, and water retention. Now, if you're androgen dominant in women, which androgen is very close to the testosterone, women will get thinning hair, and then they'll get the unusual facial, arm, leg hair. They'll break out with acne. And you may not get all of these, but there's some. Hypoglycemia, blood sugar highs and lows, and painful ovaries. Cortisol, is another stress. It's a stress hormone, as I mentioned earlier. If that gets out of range, again, fatigue, because you're living in a fight or flight, fatigue, blood sugar highs and lows, thin, dry skin, brown age spots. People will start getting age spots on their face. It's primarily on the face, not the hands, but the face. And that's because you're under too much stress and your body's aging too fast. And when that happens, you can be in your 40s and start getting age spots like healthy people do in their 70s and 80s. Okay. And then actually, when the cortisol levels get so high, people can't even exercise because they're so exhausted. They just can't get themselves to move, even though you can tell them if you exercise, you're going to feel better. Well, you have to have the energy to exercise, and it affects the brain. So all you're thinking is just get me through today. All right. Okay. So the testosterone deficiency in men, brain fog, low energy, anxiety, depression, low sex drive, erectile dysfunction, reduced muscle mass, sparse body and facial hair. So a lot of times men will lose the hair on their body. It'll actually just fall off. Okay. And then we have decrease in sperm count, decreased bone density, and increased abdominal fat. Men can have bone deficiencies just like women. The only difference, it's easier to tell if a male has a bone deficiency simply because most of the time it's in their spine and they'll start to lean forward. The upper body will lean forward. And you'll see men that have bone and they're hunched over when they're walking, they're almost looking at the ground. Okay. As they get older. If men have estrogen excess, hair loss, water retention, headaches, fatty breasts, that's the biggest way to tell. When men have that heavy, fatty breasts. Now, for you ladies, don't let men fool you. And they'll say, well, I used to lift weights and I was all muscle up there. And now it's just, getting flabby. That's not true. Okay. So just want to clear that right up. And then weight gain, and then it can lead to an enlarged prostate. So that's all the things about the imbalances. Okay. All right. So hormone health is linked directly to having 100% nutrition, exercise, stress control, detoxification to produce and metabolize hormones properly. And, that's kind of a deep subject. How do I get them to produce properly? By doing the other things, the eating, the exercise, trying to do things like meditation, those kind of things. We need to exercise regularly. 25, 45 minutes. Not every day. I believe that people should take a day or two off every week to let the body rest, depending on the amount of exercise you're doing. You want to maintain a balanced body composition, which means women should be somewhere between 21 and 33% body fat. Men should be between 11 and 21% body fat. You want balanced gut health. So when you eat, you should be eliminating within about 24 hours at most. You need to lower the sugar intake and remove snacking, which is one of the hardest things that people have to do is to reduce snacking. Reducing stress. I wrestle with this all the time with people. It's so hard because stress comes in two ways, real or perceived. All right. So what I mean by that is I can be stressed over something and Patty sitting next to me can say, that's ridiculous. Okay. Well, why would you even think that? Well, that's something in my brain That's a perception. All right. So when people get on an airplane and they're afraid to sit by the window because they think they might fall out, you say, that's crazy. Okay, you can't fall out of an airplane. But in their mind, that's a stressor. All right. So sometimes it's really hard to say, get rid of the stress. And then real stress, we all live under real stress. All right. And we have to breathe. Deep breathing, we call it 4-7-8. We have to stretch. Do things that maybe aren't so overly over the top in exercise because you can be tired if you're carrying too much stress. But things like dancing or just stuff around the home you can do. And obviously get enough sleep. Now, we put down 7.5 hours. That's kind of in the middle. Men need 7, women need 9. Probably should be an average of 8, ideally. And that should be sleep where you go to sleep, stay asleep the whole time. If you don't get enough sleep, you're going to be under stress because your mind, your brain, everything is tired. So
So another thing with this, just, being relaxed and having the right people around you, it's just that you can just sit and chat and laugh and can just be yourself and not have to put on any airs and just feel really, really good about everything. Just me thinking about this past weekend when we were away for my daughter's wedding and the fun we had and just, sitting around at night out on the deck and just, talking and laughing and, that definitely brings the stress down. So if you can get with people that make you laugh and you feel good around, do it as often as you can.
And if you're around people that never laugh, never happy, always gloomy, you probably need to make a change. It's unfortunate. Sometimes it can even be family. Okay. You have to make a change because it's dragging you down. So it's an unfortunate situation. But there are people out there that are never happy. They're always worried, upset over everything. And you can't get involved in that because we take on what we're around. If everything around us is negative, we're going to start thinking negative. If everything is positive, we're going to start thinking positive. The brain is that powerful. All right. Okay. So what we need to do is we want to talk about diet. And we have to say, let thy food be thy medicine. All right. Food is our medicine. That is what we put in our body every single day. If we eat bad, we are going to have bad hormones. We are going to have bad hormones. And if I can say that again, I will. You have to put in your body what's positive in order for the body to absorb and nurture itself. So understand protein should be 50 to 75% of the client or of the person's body weight in grams per day. In grams.
Say that again, please.
Protein, 50 to 75% of the client's weight in grams per day.
Okay.
Okay. Now you want to maximize on micronutrients and omegas and fiber. So what are the fibrous foods? Fibrous foods are vegetables. Vegetables heal. Vegetables, as you notice in that first plate, it is not equal fruits and vegetables. Our system says fruits or vegetables and or vegetables. It's wrong. That's why a lot of kids eat nothing but fruit because parents feel that fruit is the same as veggies. It is not true. All right. We have to understand that. We want to reduce caffeine and alcohol intake. We want to consume some soy-based products to increase phytoestrogen in diet. And when I say some, the reason I say some soy is because soy is a precursor to estrogen. If we overdo soy, then what happens is we can end up with too much estrogen. And then we talked about what estrogen can do. So it's not a lot of it, but we need some. So we need other things like we need the probiotics, but we don't need a ton of probiotics. We need some every day. And this is every day that we need things that we need. We put on there the instant meals. There's 20 grams of protein per serving. So if you have trouble getting the protein, so people say, I don't like eggs, I don't like this, I don't like that, then do the instant meals and you get 20 grams of protein. So then we move into dinner. You'll see vegetables are the largest portion, then protein, then fruit, and then probiotics. So we need to vary our food intake, not eat the same thing over and over and over, but we need to make it fun. We need to make it tasty. We need to make it all those things. So I just want people to understand that if you eat poorly, your hormone system will break down. And it doesn't break down when you start eating poorly. It'll break down when you start way back when we're children. Many of these things start when we're children because we didn't eat well. When I look out my south window and I see a line wrapped around McDonald's every day, 2 lines, you know, those people are not going to be healthy. Some days I just want to run out and talk to them, but probably wouldn't be a good idea, but nonetheless. Okay. So try to add protein, complex carbs, fiber, omegas, vitamin and minerals. And again, a lot of times I test people for, and I'll say they're low on omegas, which is evening primrose oil, salmon oil, and flaxseed oil. And that's why you need to increase because you're not getting enough in your diet. All right. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, go back. I think I jumped it. Okay. We need to do foundational health first and then emphasize on holistic hormone support. Why? Because 95% of all degenerative disease begins with a toxic body. So we have to achieve hormone balance, and you have to first target the source of the problem by detoxifying the body. You have to clean it up. And this what we call a lifestyle change. Change is hard. People don't like to change. We want to stay where we are. We want to say, you know, this is easy. I know what to do. I know how to do it. I like those foods, et cetera, et cetera. And it doesn't mean you can never, ever have treats, but treats should really be about 10 to 15% of your diet. Not every meal you have to have dessert and sugar.
Tell my husband that.
Okay. And that's true. A lot of people think, you know, a meal's not complete unless you have a dessert. All right. Which means you're stuffing sugar. If you're eating healthy and then you top it off with sugar, you're kind of nullifying a lot of times the good eating that you're doing. So the whole process is designed to allow the body to heal itself naturally. And normally for a person that's off track, it takes 60 to 90 days of constant, proper eating lifestyle change in order to get the body to respond. It doesn't happen with a 1-week detox. All right. Yes, you'll feel better, etc. But it happens over a period of time. I know now that I don't crave sugar at all. I don't look at sweets like I used to and say, oh, I'd like to treat myself to this and that because I'm not used to it. And once you get used to it, and then you do something, you'll actually feel it and it won't be a good feeling. All right. We want to do everything we can to live the best life that we possibly can. That's the important thing that I want to stress. So the no matter how old you are, I don't care if you're 15, 85, you can change the balance of hormones in your body. Because the body is very resilient. It will heal if we give it the chance. But we have to be patient. It's not overnight. You know, I saw something somewhere it says, I ate a salad yesterday, but I'm not feeling that much better. Well, yeah, you know, we're not, okay? It takes time. It took time to get us to where we are health-wise in a negative. It's going to take time to get us back to health in the positive. So through the lifestyle change and hormone adjustments, we use things like DHEA. DHEA is a very simple product, and DHEA is a part of the hormone system. And when we get low on DHEA, we start aging too fast internally. And when we age too fast internally, we see some of those things I mentioned before, like age spots, premature. We see poor gut health. We see fatigue. We see loss of hair, all that stuff. Wild yam cream is a natural progesterone balancer. And it's just a simple cream that you put on once a day, different spots of the body. And that helps to balance and achieve hormone balance. Understand too that if a person has candida, you're always going to have a hormone imbalance. And the candida albicans must be removed before you can get your hormones in check. So that is why a lot of times, even people have been with me for a long time, we retest them and they have candida, and I tell them, you need another candida program. You just haven't been taking care of yourself, whether it's your fault or not, whether it's stress or whatever it might be. You have to go through that in order to maintain, because people say, when I did the program, I felt fabulous, no hot flashes, night sweats, I was sleeping, on and on and on. And now I'm not. 3-4 years later, yeah, because number one, you let yourself go. Number two, you were under a lot of stress and you didn't take care of it when you first noticed it. All right. So, phytoestrogens. Phytoestrogens are the power of the plant, and it's all about plant. Medicine does not heal the body. I don't care what thyroid medication, whether it be Synthroid, whatever it might be, is not going to fix the problem. It's only going to damage, putrefy the thyroid. So we need plants. And so it's best to avoid highly processed soy. So again, we go back to soy. You don't want soy that's processed. You want natural soy. A phytoestrogen is a plant-derived product that is not generated within the endocrine system, but it's consumed by eating plants or manufactured foods. Okay. Phytoestrogens have structure that are quite similar to endogen estradiol derived from plants. A lot of women will go on things like estradiol, but to balance their hormones, but that is based on animal. Actually, it's most of them are produced by animal horse urine, mares, and we don't carry the horse hormone in our body, and that's why it can create things like strokes and heart attacks. In Asia, the phytoestrogens are really widespread. That's all they use for reproductive health, heart health, weight loss, hormone-dependent tumors, bone, skin health, and immune system. And that's why all of our supplements are derived from plant. There is absolutely nothing manufactured, no animal, nothing. It's all about the plants. So we want the phytoestrogens. So vegetables like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, kale, all of those contain phytoestrogens. They also carry anti-cancer and anti-inflammatory properties. So, Patty, how many times do we get people come in and say they don't like vegetables?
Lots of times, every day.
And I tell them what?
Can't get healthy,
Yeah.
you should eat vegetables.
You will never be healthy eating that way, never. You have to have the plant. Okay, there is absolutely no way you can be healthy if you don't eat plant. Diets rich in
Cruciferous.
cruciferous vegetables are also associated with lower risk of many chronic diseases like heart problems. And there's anybody's interested in that, I can give you sites to go on to see what they are. We're taking the residents?
No, go ahead.
Okay, I didn't want you to sit there and be bored.
I'm not bored. I'm laughing.
Okay, so this might be a little bit deep, and I'll just kind of go through it real quick. It's called phenolic compounds classified as phytoestrogens, and the four of them are isoflavonoids, stilbene, coumastan, and lignin. Okay, now isoflavonoids are found in soybeans and beans. It's also found in red clover. They come in the form of isoflavones, and I'm not going to get into all this stuff because it's just too much. But it's one of the most important things we can put in our body, those kind of foods, okay? And they're needed, isoflavones is needed to give health effects. And we need about 40 to 70 milligrams a day for an average of, well, that amount, okay? The average consumption of isoflavonoids in Asian society is 15 to 50 micrograms per day, while in our country, only about 2 per day. So you can see why we're so much less healthy than people in Asia or other parts of the world. We have a lot of clients that come to us and they tell us that they were healthy before they migrated to the United States. Once they got here and started eating the McDonald's and the Burger Kings and Kentucky Fried Chicken, which they said is really good, they become unhealthy. And that's exactly right, because we don't get enough of the isoflavonoids. The next one is stilbenes. It's basically resveratrol, which is found in grapes and peanuts. Now, if you have candida, we don't want you eating peanuts, but some peanuts are good if you don't have candida. You get your stilbenes. Lignans are flaxseed, and also in gluten-free wheat flour, peanuts, fruits, berries, vegetables, etc. And the fourth one is coumacenes, which includes split peas, pinto beans, lima beans, and especially alfalfa and clover sprouts. So a lot of times, if you look at our ingredients, there are all these things are in our ingredients on our supplements, but small amounts, because you don't need a whole bunch of them. You just need some, enough to feed the body properly. Next is essential fatty acids. Okay, essential fatty acids are what is called lipid-derived, amino acid-derived, and peptide hormones, which includes peptides and proteins. You don't really need to know that, but so the main class of lipid-derived hormone is a steroid, which are derived from cholesterol. So actually, cholesterol actually plays a good role if the cholesterol is in the right levels. Steroid hormones include testosterone, estrogen, and cortisol. So it goes right back to those main parts of the hormone system that keeps us well. And when I say steroids, I don't mean steroids, like people get steroid shots. So don't think that way. What do omega-3 do? They play a part in creating hormone balance because of its anti-inflammatory properties. It's a part of the healthy fat intake that is essential for hormone health, but actually focuses on organizing and balancing of the hormone of the omega-3 to omega-6 ratio, which is very important that you do the ratio. And that is why when I put people on programs, we do salmon oil or flax and then EPO. Okay, because that is the balancer. So somebody has a hormone problem, I'm not going to put them on just one or the other. They have to do both. They're not essential fatty acids, which means you don't need to take them. You don't need to get them in your diet. If your body needs them, your body can actually make them if you're healthy. And people that are healthy, sometimes they only need one. They might need the 3 or sometimes the 6, but mostly it's always the 3. The omega-3s, you need to get them from food or 100% pure nutrition or the supplementation. And people that are healthy, the body is fully equipped to make their own in-house. Omega-3, salmon oil, and flaxseed oil are your best. And the omega-6 is the evening primrose oil, which decreases inflammation. Okay. So now we go the thyroid. How do we regulate that? The thyroid is there's supplementation to help the thyroid gland, and because of the iodine content. And the iodine is a key nutrient, as I mentioned earlier, for the T3 and T4. If somebody has been on thyroid medication for a long period of time, in all probability, you will never get the thyroid to work again because the medication has killed the thyroid by non-use. And what I mean by that is the medication bypasses the thyroid. So sometimes, well, a lot of times when people get on thyroid medication, doctors tell them you'll be on this the rest of your life. Yes, you will if you keep taking it for a long period of time. Do those people still need support for the thyroid? Yes, because the thyroid plays a function in all those other things we talked about. So you still have to deal with the nerves and everything that surrounds the thyroid, even though the thyroid may not be working the way it's supposed to. That is why I tell people before you go on it, let's talk and see if we can't help the thyroid by itself. Bacopa helps to reduce stress and anxiety by helping to elevate your mood and reducing levels of cortisol. And that comes from the use of the thyroid supplementation. DHEA, I already mentioned this, what it does, and wild yam cream. The thing is that DHEA is a hormone that's produced by the body's adrenals, and it uses DHEA to make androgens and estrogens, which is the male and female hormones. DHEA levels peak at about 25, like I showed you, and then go down as we get older. There was a time, probably in the 70s, maybe early 80s, where when they first came out with DHEA, they advertised it as an anti-aging product. That, in other words, they programmed it to say, if you take this all the time, you will never age. And that's not true, okay? You could take a bottle a week and you're still going to age. How do you know if you have too much DHEA in your body? Your body will tell you. You will start breaking out in acne on your face or back or something like that, okay? So then you've got enough and your body doesn't need it, and it's telling you, don't put any more in. And it doesn't happen a lot because of our diet and our poor health, but nonetheless, it can actually happen. Okay, so we have estrogen cancers. which occurs in the breast, ovarian, uterus. To help prevent this, blessed thistle herb can help, and that is found in our balance. Okay, and that's why a lot of times we put people on wild yam and balance at the same time to balance everything. Cancers within the hormone system, especially uterine cancer, ovarian cancer, can be very fast acting. And that is why it's so important to take care of your body and make sure that you keep your hormone levels right and your health right. The next one is Damiana leaf. This extract stimulates menstruation. It relieves headaches, cramps, and other stress due to menstruation and menopause. The percentage of women that come in and they have all kinds of menstruation issues is staggering. Okay. And this particular leaf is a natural fertility supplement that can stimulate fertility by acting on the pituitary gland. So again, we go back to the brain to be able to help the body to become pregnant. And men need it as well because it's also designed to increase sperm count and strengthen the ovum in women. And it's been used a lot to reduce delayed menstruation and balance menstrual cycles. A funny story, one time when I first started, I had a gentleman come in and he didn't want to do a program, but he wanted something to help his body. He said he just felt he had a large fatty breast, etc. And this product used to be called Breast Enhancer before Dr. Nelson renamed it to Balance. And when I talked to the gentleman, I didn't really know what I needed to do. So I called her and I said, you know, I have a gentleman here that's, you know, with his symptoms. She said, well, if you won't do a program, put him on the breast enhancer. And now this guy was probably 6'3" and 250 pounds. So I went back and I told him, I said, well, I told Dr. Nelson, I said, breast enhancer. He's concerned because he has fatty breast. You know, I'm not sure that's going to go well. And I went back and I told him what she had said. And he said, I trust you. He says, but if it does what the label says, I'm coming back in here. But he didn't have to come back and be angry, but I thought that was funny. Okay. The next one is a dong quai, which is a female fertility herb, and it's been used for centuries for its ability to strengthen the uterus by regulating hormonal control. And that's also in the balance. And that's why you see so many different plants, but they are formulated small amounts that work together. All right. It's a powerful anti-inflammatory that can affect many things. It can affect a condition affecting the fallopian tubes and in turn help with conception. Motherwort is another one. It helps to break the body, to help the body to break down and process hormones, which in turn can help balance the symptoms of menopause. And it also has a mild sedative effect. Motherwort benefits the emotional heart as well. And if we think of motherwort and mothers affecting the emotional heart, so especially during moments of anxiety, when the heart races, it soothes the nerve system and relieves the tensions that cause stress in our body. Now for men, we have prostate, okay? This is called benign prostatic hyperplasia, also known as BPH. Now this is in men, this is a condition in which the prostate gland is enlarged, but not cancerous. It is also called benign prostatic hypertrophy or benign prostate obstruction, where the prostate goes through two main growth periods as a man ages, okay? If a male has this and wants to make an effort to reduce it, we have to reduce your caffeine intake. Caffeine is not everything people think it is, or you might hear it is, because it robs the body of nutrients. And you need to cut back on sodas and or energy drinks. Because people get tired and they want the energy drink to give them that energy. Also, eliminating caffeine can help, especially in men in urinary health. And guess what people should be drinking?
Water.
Water, okay? I get so many people say, I hate water. So you need to stay hydrated and you gotta drink more. People think if they drink less, they'll go to the bathroom less. That's not a good thing. Symptoms of BPH include frequent or urgent need to pee, more so at night than during the day. They have trouble starting to go. They have a weak urine stream or a stream that starts, stops. And then they have dribbling at the end of urination, and they're not able to fully empty the bladder. So it becomes uncomfortable, even though you're urinating, it just feels like you have to go more. So what are some of the things that will help? That's in the prostate. Salt palmetto extract, okay? That helps with the effective level of testosterone and reduces the amount of an enzyme that promotes the growth of prostate cells. Salt palmetto also has an anti-inflammatory effect on the prostate, which can help to shrink it. And it's very, very, very popular. However, I would not recommend that people just go out and buy a lot of salt palmetto and take it straight. The next one is in there is called Queen of the Meadow. It's a dried root flower that's used as a diuretic to relieve kidney and urinary problems. It's also good for rheumatoidism, gallstones, and fluid retention. Juniper berry can relieve UTI symptoms by increasing urinary volume and helping to flush bacteria out of the urinary tract. A lot of men with prostate, they hold a lot of urine within the urinary tract. It never quite moves. Corn silk helps extract and improve the BPH symptoms by inhibiting the RNA. I won't get into that, but it's used for bladder infections, inflammation of the urinary system, inflammation of the prostate, kidney stones, and bedwetting. I better go to sleep on me.
Oh, usually you give me that little hand motion. Get in it.
Wild yam cream. Wild yam cream can be used by men and women, okay? And so can balance, obviously, as we mentioned. Wild yam cream contains a phytochemical called diosgenin. It actually influences the production of several hormones in humans. It affects estrogen, DHEA, and by consuming wild yam cream, you can promote all the hormones in the body, which could have obviously a lot of good medical benefits. They do act like estrogen-like activities in the body. Is used to lessen the effects of hormonal imbalance. So men have hormonal imbalances just like women do. Wild yam cream is a vegetable. It's micronized. It can come in micronized powder, but we use the yam so it absorbs through the skin. We put about 1/4 teaspoon of wild yam cream after bathing, but always in the morning. If you don't bathe in the morning, you just still put it on. You never use it at night because it can produce energy and maybe keep people from sleeping. And you want to put it in soft tissue areas, and we have 7 spots that we tell people to put it on, and I give them a little cheat sheet all the time. We We always test on our test, as Patty held up, the same test. And that'll tell us a lot of times based on people's responses to their hormone checklist, do they need balance, do they need wild yam cream, do they need DHEA? And anybody in each section has more than 3 checks on each section for deficiency estrogen, deficiency progesterone, testosterone, or excess. They need this type of products. Okay. So let's the best way to find out, come in and do a Zytoscan. Okay, simple, easy. Tells us a lot of things about everything in the body. But remember, as I said earlier, the hormones are not just hormones, it's virtually every organ in the body. So sometimes when I do a program, I don't put people on the hormone balance because it's all about the gut health. Their gut health is way off balance, and therefore it's creating a problem with the hormones. We never, ever, ever treat the symptom. We treat the root cause. We have to go to the cause of it. Why are you getting hot flashes? Not just because you're hormonal, it can be so many other things. And that's why the Zytoscan is so important and it can help people. And that's about all I have for tonight. I'm a little over probably. I thank everybody for being here. I'm going to ask Patty to stop the video and then open it up for questions.
All right.
Oh, Marines are.
I got her. And Clayton was there too.
Okay, who has questions?
Clayton's here.
Huh?
Clayton.
Okay.
I have a question. The last annual checkup I went to, my doctor wanted me to go and get an MRI done of my thyroid because he thought it was enlarged. I still haven't gone because my insurance doesn't cover it, so I haven't had the money to do it, but it doesn't, like, what does that mean? Is that I don't have any symptoms of what you were talking about, really? Extraordinary anyway. So I don't know if I'm risking by not going to do that, or if he's just being overly cautious, or.
Okay. The answer to that question is, and one of the flaws of testing for thyroid in the medical community, the range is this wide. Okay.
Great.
And the problem is that your range really should be a certain parameter. If you're feeling healthy and you don't have any of these symptoms, I would say just keep taking care of yourself. Keep eating right. I know how you eat and stuff, and I know you eat pretty darn good. The rest of your health is good. Would I worry about it? No. Okay. If you're start suffering from fatigue and just total exhaustion and brain fog, and that starts creeping up, then maybe yes, but I would not sit there and worry about it whatsoever, knowing you.
Okay.
Who else has a question?
I guess I have one more question then.
Okay.
You mentioned the people going through the program in the very beginning of the program when they were really getting their body on track from being off track for a very long time, that they started having, menstrual issues or that kind of stuff. Now, I was one of those people you mentioned that went into menopause very early. I was probably just barely 40. And it was just like a switch. It was there one day, gone the next, and I was done. There was no graduating into it. There was nothing. It was just one way, 1 month, one way the next month, and it stayed that way for the rest of the time. When I went through the program, I didn't have any of those resurgences. Does that mean my body was just ready at that time?
Yes.
Which was fine with me, but.
Some people end early, yes. The typical age is in like late 40s, early 50s. That's a typical, but everybody's a little bit different. I've had women come in at 55, 58 and still menstruating regular. Okay.
Ugh, God.
They tell me, I wish I would quit. Well, your body's not ready to quit. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just your body. That's what your body's doing. Okay.
So you mentioned that we only get, sorry, you mentioned that we only get so many eggs during our lifetime too. Does that mean that maybe our cycles are just designed to be so long, and if you start early, you end early?
Could be, absolutely. All right. So yes, a lot of times when young girls start early, which is not, we don't care for that. And usually when they start early, it's because they're not eating well. They're doing things that they shouldn't be doing, like eating the wrong foods, maybe taking certain drugs or something like that. Will start them early. And yes, a lot of times you'll end early. But it's not a bad thing as long as you're not suffering from hot flashes, night sweats, all that stuff. You're done. Okay.
Fine with me.
Any other questions?
I don't know if you can hear me. Am I on
I
mute?
can.
Oh, is there such a thing as male menopause where you see the opposite, like they lose weight and they divorce their wives and get another girlfriend and so forth? Do the opposite.
Yes. Men go through menopause. Don't ever let a male tell you they don't. We just don't realize it because we don't have a menstrual cycle and all that stuff. But yes, men go through it. For men, we call it
Midlife crisis.
midlife crisis. Okay. Yeah. That's the guy that has gets a little sports car and picks up a 22-year-old and he's in his 50s and thinks life is just grand. Okay. That's really the male menopause.
Uh-huh.
All right. Not everybody goes through it and shows the symptoms, just like not all women show a symptom of, but we go through it and it changes the same way women do. So it's just part of aging. It's part of the brain function for men. Men have a fear of getting old because our brain says we can keep doing the things we used to do and we should be able to do it. And we realize we can't. So a lot of men will go for the things that they did when they were young or wish they would have done when they were young.
Mm-hmm.
So the answer is yes, men go through it. That's why I just went and bought a sports car yesterday. No, just kidding. Couldn't find the 22-year-old, but I got the sports car. No, just kidding. Okay, who else? Anybody else?
Mary.
Yes, Myrtle.
I was just wondering, when men go through menopause, is it physiological as it is with women?
Physiological, as it is with women.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay,
So-
their body changes. The body changes. And that's one thing that triggers men to do it. They look in the mirror and they're not that, they look at themselves and go, my gosh, I'm 50 and look at me. And I used to be this age and I thought I looked so much better and all that stuff. So
What I mean is there a hormonal change like there is in women?
yes,
Yes. Okay.
absolutely. The
Right.
DHA levels change.
Mhm.
The aging process changes, yes. And so does their estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, androgen, cortisol, they all change. Okay, just like women. We're really all the same. It's just that we have different parts of the body and it just shows up a little bit different. But we all go through the same aging process, mentally and physically. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Hey Clayton, good to see you. You're on mute. Whatever you're saying, we can't hear you.
I think he said it's good to be seen.
Oh, it's good to be seen.
I don't know.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I'm going through menopause. My wife says I'm still going through it. Ever since I
Yeah.
grew breasts.
Yeah, so, you know, it changes, we all change, we just have to understand it and live it. So, but you know what? You're still functioning, you're still alive, you're taking care of your family, you're doing all the right things, so we just know life is a cycle. In every aspect of our life, it's a cycle. Anybody else? Heather, you don't have a question, are you kidding me? Okay. Nancy? Jane? You're muted. I'm still muted.
We lost somebody.
Hmm?
I feel like we lost somebody.
Yeah.
Does it have to do with genetics also? You can't hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you, Jane. We heard you.
A tiny amount, I would say, but it's 90, I would say 98% lifestyle.
Mm.
It's all about lifestyle. You know, our country obesity is rampant, and that means poor health. If you go to Dr. Nelson tells a story how she went, you know, in the jungles and stuff, and these people never heard of menopause. They never heard of menstruation problems. They just never heard. Why? Because they eat off the earth. That's all they eat is plants. You know, she says she met with medicine doctors, you know, and now we say, you know, they're back in the old ages, but they, you know, and talking, she said she would talk to young women and through the medicine man and ask questions, and they would look at her like, what are you talking about? We don't have that. That's because we have such poor health in our country. It's all about what we do to our body, what we put in it.
All right, I'm gonna stop the recording.
Okay. All right. If there's no other questions, I'm going to turn it over to Heather.